I'm such a honor and pleasure to present in this event. And thanks for all the organizers, and thanks for all the attendees to participate in the event, and for the contribution as well. So without further ado, let me start my session. Since we have only 45 minutes and lots of things to cover in this 45 minutes, let me share my screen. Oops, just a moment. Okay, again, welcome everyone to Urdu Hindi Bootcamp 2021, powered by Pakistan User Group. And thank you for the sponsors, Guru Group, Barhead, and Magic Global. Without the sponsors, this event wouldn't be possible, and special thanks to them. So, a quick introduction about myself. Jeevarajan Kumar. I'm a Microsoft MVP and MCT. I'm based out of Singapore. I work as a solution architect in Avanade Asia Private Limited. And this is my YouTube channel link, and then my blog link. And if you want to follow,
sorry to interrupt you, Jeevarajan.
Sure.
Are you sharing your screen?
Right. Just a minute. I think I'm sharing the screen. Oh, sorry about that. I thought I was sharing the screen.
Not an issue.
Hope you can see it now.
Yes, all good. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Yeah, so this is my quick introduction about myself, and please feel free to follow me on the Twitter and LinkedIn, the below ID. And this is my blog ID, and then my YouTube channel link. I will share them in the chat later. So today's topic is going to be on Dynamics 365 Field Service Fundamentals. So as the name suggests, is the fundamental session. So if you're new to field service, or if you're planning to implement the field service in your project, or if you're willing to take a field service certification, which is MB 240, this session will be definitely a good starter for that. But this session will not be an advanced one. So you see the agenda, the basic concepts that we're going to cover in this session is the introduction of what is the field service is all about, and the overall field service process, and the work order, which is the key entity center, for the field service module, and then the schedulings or different scheduling option and tools that we have available, and how the field service after scheduled, how it can be serviced, by the technician or by the scheduler. So what will not be covered as part of this session is basically the schedule board, the advanced concepts, some of them like schedule board customizations, scheduling via APIs, where usually done by external systems, and also this resource scheduling optimization, which is called as RSO, and self-service concepts, which is done from the customer service portal, customer portals, and then mobile app customization, inventory management, inventory adjustments, integrating with ERP, connected field service, and many more. So please don't think that this looks very small, small, and but the thing is, it's such a massive concept to cover in 45 minutes. If I take just one of this, schedule board, I can talk about schedule board for like 45 minutes itself. So it's going to be, in fact, a fast-paced session. Please feel free to ask your questions in the comments if there is any. I might, if time permits, I might cover inventory management, but let me see that. I'll just keep it as an optional for now. So with that, first thing, so what is field service? So field service, you can say it's refer to any service that is basically performed in the field rather than a facility or a company within the office. So a primary difference between a customer service and if you're using customer service or case management, it would be like, it can be done. It's all about taking your queries and tickets and trying to resolve the issue. And then the field service can be an extension version of the customer service as well, where if the issue cannot be resolved over a phone or over a remote system, where an individual human or a group of humans is required to fulfill that, to solve that ticket. That's where your field service will be helpful as well. Well, it's one of the scenarios, but there are more scenarios where the field service can be used. So why Dynamics 365 field service? So Dynamics 365 field service provides organizations with tools to deliver on-site services to their customers and to manage their mobile workforce as well. And it does provides tools to dispatch workers to a specific location to perform certain tasks like installation, repairs, or facility booking, as such. And then it's not just about booking, it's all about the scheduling and the best optimizations of the resources, best utilization of the resources, and which can be optimized in different level and automated in different level based on the organization needs. And then later the same the products or the or services which has been used in the field service work order can be adjusted to the inventory, to the ERP, and then can be invoiced and billed as well. So with that, to give a like overview of what Dynamics 365 field service can do, as you can see, the Dynamics 365 field service can be the component itself, as the app itself, can be used from the field service mobile app as a dynamic portals and the mixed reality technician view, and and the extension of the field service called RSO optimization engine. And then it internally uses Bing Maps, or the maps can be extended to Google Maps or OneMap or any third-party app map as well. And the extension version of the field service can be used to connect to IoT, which is called a connected field service as well. So which is kind of a preventive, maintenance situation scenarios. So what we're going to focus on today is to set up the Dynamics 365 field service over here, and like a basic basic information that needs to be set up for the to implement the field service, and also the field service mobile app, which will be used by the technician to fulfill that particular work order. And today, as I just showed in the previous slide, the portals or mixed reality or RSO or IoT is going to be totally out of scope for this session. So what are the value that a Dynamics 365 field service brings? So it decreases the average travel time by scheduling jobs to closest technician. It saves time and reduces fleet maintenance cost, which is reducing truck rolls, right? And then it also improves the fixed time rates and the instruction and skills to succeed right before even arriving the on-site. So we know the right resources and the right team who can fulfill that specific work order. And it does increase the indeed it increases the customer satisfaction, and because we have accurate travel time and transparency in the work that's been performed, and certain maintenance can be prevented as well as a preventive maintenance. And it increases the service cost per technician due to the optimized schedules, which decreases for the truck rolls and the travel time. And then so in such a way it increases the operations, decreases the operation cost and increases the profit. As you can see, this is a schedule board, a classic example, and you can see the resources over here and the map view where the resources can be seen, and the pane where the documents, unscheduled work orders, unscheduled documents can be drag and drop to the actual schedule pane and the resources over here. And we'll see that in details shortly. But you can see that there's a different colors that indicates the different status of the work order, or and you can see the details of it, like like the travel time over here. This 26 minutes is the travel time, estimated travel time, and you can see the work order number and the duration, estimated duration for that particular work order completion, which flows in from the service tasks. And when this kind of like next to each other schedule can be achieved by using RSO, which basically optimize the resources like back to back each other, by saving the travel time and reducing the idle time. So with that, we'll see some industry usage of the Dynamics 365 field service. So one classic example I can talk about is the manufacturing, where you can talk about a medicinal equipment manufacturer or any home appliances manufacturers, excuse me, which basically manufacture and sells the equipments to the hospitals and clinics, so they can use the field service to install the equipments and do the maintenance, periodical maintenance, a scheduled maintenance, or a ad hoc based maintenance as well. And if I talk about a telecom companies can use the field service to for their both B2B or B2C customers to basically sell their services and also to respond to the outages, by dispatching the technicians to the problem areas. So it's not just about the B2C. B2B is vessel. It has a huge behind the scene work that takes place during for the work orders to be executed or the connections to be provided, where you have a prerequisite work like the cable laying, all the underground works. Even for that, you can schedule the field technicians and manage the overall resources and workforces. So the point I was trying to make here in this telecom is, or any industry per se, is it doesn't need to be always involving customers. It can be non-customer facing works as well, where internally the company has to do to provide the end customer services. And similarly in healthcare, so it's not just about servicing a machine or installing a machine or connecting a cable. It can be within scheduling a doctor or a healthcare worker to basically serve patients, serve the patients as well. And in this case, you can actually book a room, a consulting room, or an operation theater, and then you can also book the doctors or a group of experts to attend a specific case or a patients based on the history. And then the equipment maintenance is a classic field service example where the maintenance can be triggered periodically with certain features like agreements, or it can be a ad hoc maintenance as well, where a customer reports a complaint or case and then eventually converts that which can be converted to work order. And of course, there are more. It's just a few classic examples of the field service. So before we start studying more about the field service per se, so we need to understand certain basic terminologies of the field services. So like if you just heard a few of my explanation that I gave just before, you could have seen that I use terminologies like field technicians. So what are field technicians? So field technicians are the individuals or the human resource who basically perform the certain task or fulfill the work orders. And the work order is nothing but, as you can say, is the primary record type in field service, which has the information such as who the work is for, I mean the customer, where it should be performed, the service location, and what needs to be done, as a services and a service task, and the skills required to perform the task, and the timelines as well, like what is the time promised, which we have given to customer. And if you see the work order products, that's the products that will be used as part of the work order itself. So if you talk about installation of a washing machine, so we can say that the work order products is an inventory based product which we going to be installed in the customer's place. There can be non-inventory based products as well, like minor products like screws, ties, all those things which we don't need to track as part of the inventory, but yeah, it can be added as well. And then the services as well. And then you can have a work order services, which is kind of we can convert this as a man-hour, where you can say like a drilling, or if you talk about the aircon installation, you can say a provision to set up the external that unit, something like that. And then service task is kind of a to-do list which instructs or which guides the field engineer or field technician to be done at the end of every work order, so that he marks it after he performs certain work order. And then the same, and also another use of the service task is the overall duration of the field of the work order is calculated from the service task as well. It is a summation of the individual to-do list task. And you'll see incidents, and the incident is basically a template to actually have the work order services, tasks, and products. So we will see what are they in shortly. Like instead of creating the products and work and services and service tasks every single time, you can save incidents, and you can call it, like for example, aircon installation as an incident, as a template, which will have its own services and service tasks and products as well. So every time when there is a work order needs to be done for the aircon installation, you can just choose the aircon installation as the primary incident type, and eventually all the other things will be populated. There can be multiple incidents as well if you want to combine the multiple works, which can be done separately, or also it can, which can sometimes it can be group. All of them can be done in the same customer, same time, but next to each other. So in that case, you can have multiple incidents as well for a work order. And then the customer asset. So customer asset is basically the equipment that sits on the customer location. So what does that mean? Let's say you have a washing machine as a work order product, and you did a customer bought the washing machine, you went to his place, you install the washing machine, and after the work order is completed, that washing machine will be adjusted from our inventory and it will be marked as a customer asset. So tomorrow, when we try to do the periodical maintenance or service for that washing machine, so we can track against the all this, the maintenance and the history against that specific customer asset. And then the agreement is similar to your, it's basically to auto generate the work orders and even invoices as well in predefined schedules periodically. For example, if you bought a car and the car company gives you 2 years of free service maintenance once in 3 months, let's say. So if they configure this kind of agreements once in 3 months, automatically the work order will be created and the technicians will be assigned who can just come to your place and do their service, something like that. And these are the key entities which is involved, as part of the field service implementation. And you can see the center is part is the critical one is the work order, and you can see the billing account and the service account and the resource booking, resource requirement, and the other some of them are listed here, which we spoke now. I will open the product and show you what exactly is billing account, service account, and other components here. And this is just a ER diagram, or I can call it as a work order architecture. So as you can see, the work order consists the billing account and the service account internally. So both are basically account. So the service account is the actual location where the service is done. So for example, if from the B2B scenario, you can think about, let's say there will be a main head office where the customer billing would be generated against, but there can be branch offices where this the field service is taken place. That's the difference between the billing account and the service account. And then these are the key attributes that gets involved in the work order. And you can see the account related components here, and the agreements and the customer assets which we just discussed now. And then the work order incident, as I said, the incident itself is a template which can hold the service task, product, services, and the characteristics like skill sets. And then and these two are the key entities when it comes to scheduling. So one is called resource requirement and booking. So resource requirement is something that holds what is required to fulfill that work order. So this resource requirement will tell what is the time that is promised to the customer, what is the skill set that is required to fulfill this work order, what is the the priorities, like preferred resources, such that. And booking is finally when work order is scheduled to a particular technician. That's where the booking gets created. So you can think about booking as an entity that binds the which allocates the particular resource to the work order. It ties the resources to the work order. And eventually booking itself has some of its properties. Like if you talk about resources, of course it involves components like work hours, because not everyone can work like nobody's going to work like 24 hours a day, right? So they're going to be work hours. They're going to be like their own skill sets, their own preferences, their rating, and then and which warehouses they belongs to, the hourly rate, and so on, so like that. So this is the high level architecture, or entities and the relations, how it is mapped in the system. There are more in fact behind the scene, but this is the core and base to do to set up an field service. Okay, so a first demo, let's see whatever we saw now. We'll see in the system how the field service is going to look like and what the work order is going to look like. So if I quickly, yeah. So the moment you install the field service application, as you can see in the Dynamics 365, you'll have field service and we'll have field service mobile. So field service mobile customizations, whatever you do here, will be shown in the mobile UI. Just a moment, like this. But yeah, let's go there in shortly. Let's not jump there. But then you have the field service web app where the overall the backend user or back office user is going to use. So if you see this, the when if you are starting from scratch, you can use this, get start, which is quite easy one to quickly set up things like, you can set up your frontline workers. So if you click on this, it is going to take you to the resources, as such. So why we need to do this? If I go to the work order and if I open one of the work order, you can see the basic information which we just saw now. Just a moment. Like, billing account and the service account, which I just told you now, and then the status. So if you see the work order status, it has 6 different status, and it's unscheduled. When you when you create a work order, it's going to be unscheduled status by default. The moment it gets scheduled to someone, when the moment the booking is created, it will be scheduled. And then if the booking status, actually this work order status will be closely related to the tied to the booking status. And when the field engineer starts traveling, this status will become in progress, and when the field engineer completes the booking, this will change to complete. So some cases, if it's any issue, it's failed or cancelled, it will be cancelled, and once it's posted for the invoice, it's all posted. And you can have multiple substatus as per your organization, like there, and you can tie this to your booking status. So and you can see that the one we just discussed now, the products, it will show what are the products that are going to be used in this particular work order. Let's say in this case, this is one of the equipment that we're going to install, for example. And then the services that needs to be performed, like installation or drilling, or you can call it, like whatever based on the business. And then finally the service task, which is, as I said, the checklist or the to-do list that engineer has to perform. So if you open one of this, it's going to have is the percentage of completion and the actual duration taken, estimated duration as such, like that. And this can be extended as well, where you can add things from your external systems as well, and you can connect. And for example, in case of telecom, so where we had one of the scenarios for certain service tasks to be fulfilled, it has to verify with some other system, and and it gets the data up and running, and then in real time it gets a synchronization, and then you mark as complete, all those kind of things. And then with that, so as I was saying earlier, if you see, there is something called primary incident type, and you can see there can be multiple incidents. Right now I added only one, which is primary incident type. So these components, these details has been populated from the primary incident type, right? So I don't need to, but if I want, I can always go and add more stuffs here as well. Nobody's stopping me to do that. But to make it like repeatable process, you can have it in the incident, and it gets flow into your work order. So and you can see that the details of the amount has been populated from the work order product. And then right now the booking is empty because there is no booking created, and it is unscheduled. I will show resource requirement, and then I'll stop and I'll go to some of the prerequisite to fulfill the scheduling, and then we'll see scheduling, right? So now if you see the resource requirement for this, whenever the work order is created, the resource requirement is created. So you can see the resource requirement, it gets the hours flowing from the field service, and work order, and the work order duration has been calculated based on the service task. If I just put it side by side, so you see this service task with this overall duration of the work order, and the 1 hour here is calculated from the sum of the service tasks, and the same has been flown into the duration resource requirement as well. So, and also the resource requirement has some of these things. As you can see, the skill sets. So it needs armband servicing. So what does that mean? To someone to install this armband, they need to have a skill set called armband servicing. So what else they can have apart from the skill set? Well, they can have preferred resources as well. So if you see preferred resources, so what is it for? So I'll show you shortly what does the resources mean. But yeah, So if you see the preferred resources, you will have a different type, like preferred resource or a restricted resource, and must choose from. So when you say preferred resource, let's say one of your customers always prefer one of your field technician, since he does some of the previous job that he did, and the customer was very much satisfied, and you can set them as a preferred resources. So when you mark this resource as a preferred resource, when the system tries to schedule this work to someone, it always consider this, gives preference to this particular resource. In this case, to me, always when compared to others. And if you mark it as a restricted resource, when system auto schedules, like in case of RSO, even when you use scheduling assistant, which we will see shortly, it will exclude this resource. So this restricted means this particular customer had a very bad experience with this particular technician. So they told you that no, please do not send this guy anymore. So we mark this resource as a restricted resource. And this can also be automated based on the customer feedback in real-time business scenario. When you have the customers and they fill the feedback from, let's say, a customer voice, and you can actually do some integration to automatically mark this resource as a restricted resource. So in that case, you will not mark against the individual resource requirement. Rather, you can actually mark it against the customer itself. So if I open the customer, it has something called preferred resources. So you can add this, let's say in this case, the technician Jiva as a someone who the customer doesn't want to be to get it. So there should be some resource preferences. So here you can based on the feedback, you can add this resource as a restricted resource. So going forward, this resource will not be assigned to this customer at all, something like that. And yeah, so coming back to resource requirement, you can also have resource roles. So based on the position that your customer we have in an organization like this. So for this customer, a preferred roles are account manager, consulting lead, or whatever it is. And then you can have preferred organization units as well. So what is organization units? So if you think in a real-time scenario, so you'll have your business, and you might have contractors, right, whom you are subcontracted your business to. So basically, in many scenarios, so these field technicians and the workers might not be a full-time employees of your organization. So they can be contracted from different organizations as well. So in that case, if you are talking about preferred organization units, and these resources will be grouped under the certain contractors or preferred organizations, the subcontractors. So you can say for this kind of work, you can have one or two of the preferred contractors as the organizations. Like in this case, if let's say I always prefer Fabricam US when compared to someone else, so I can just use that, and eventually the resources from that preferred org units will be considered to be scheduling. So unfortunately, there is RSO doesn't support this. It's not supporting the preferred org unit, but it does supports in the scheduling assistant, and when you do from scheduling API as well. If you are using RSO and you like to leverage this, a workaround for this would be instead of directly adding organization units, you can have a flow or something behind the scene to basically fetch all the resources under this organization unit, and you can populate them in the resource preferences, so that the RSO will regard this resource preferences. But unfortunately, it's not considering the resource preferred org units. It's just a tip, in that. So apart from that, you can see this window is pretty important. So if you see, there is something called priority. So this priority also comes from the work order. So a priority you can have up to 1 to level 10. So let's say you have a VIP customers. If you mark, let's say, excuse me, aid item as a VIP customer, or if you have a normal order, and let's say you have priority orders, right? Sometimes for normal customers, you can take it like SLA can be 3 days. Sometimes VIP customers, it has to be serviced in, let's say, half a day or something like that. You can have a priority against that, and you can see there should be priority. Let me check. Yeah, here. So you can set a priority in the field job, in the work order, and then the work order priority will be flown to the resource requirement. So from 1 to level 10, where the Level 10 is considered as the highest priority. So what happens is when the RSO tries to schedule this particular work to the resources, it picks the priority work orders first and schedules them to the available technicians before it goes for the other work orders, right? So that is what it is. And then there is a work location parameter called on-site facility and location agnostic. So what does this mean? So if you set as a facility, it depends on where the field technician currently is, and it uses this as a preference. It matches this preference with the field technician preferences. So the field technician, either they can allocate, you can instruct the system to allocate the work order based on the on-site. So wherever the customer and the technician is, it assigns the work orders near to its current location. And if you make it location agnostic, it just ignores that. And if you make it facility, wherever his organization is, and it will try to assign work order near to that. And there is something called time from promised and time to promise, which should be used extensively in many scenarios. So if I set, for example, it's a 8 to 10 a.m. So what does that mean? So this time from promised and time to promised is basically to instruct your customers that, hey, one of my guys is going to be in your house or your location between 8 to 10 a.m., right? So we are giving some promise to a customer that someone is going to be at your place by 8 to 10 a.m. The thing is, it doesn't guarantee that the work will be start and completed by 8 to 10. Well, it's the guarantee that gives the customer that they will be there within this time, but the work will take its own time, depends on the duration of the work we just saw now, right? We will see how this data will be impacted further down in the scheduling. And then you can also have time window start and end, time window end, which is basically, it says like it will be completed and started and completed within this range. But this is kind of like the promised date, promised time, and which will say date and time where the someone from my company will be there. Okay. So if you save this, but there is something called fulfillment preference. I don't want to go into that. It's kind of advanced, but yeah, I will show you where it will be used shortly. So yes, so if I just save and close this, so we got resource requirement uh, done for our, yes, and if I just put the date as well, tomorrow, for example, we save and close. So now we have seen what is the base that required to create a work order. There is one more thing when it comes to product, we have to be that setting, where it says it's an inventory based product or not. So when you create a product, you will see inventory, non-inventory, and then servicing. So if I go to product, we can see like inventory and then service type and non-inventory. So inventory is the products that will be adjusted from the inventory once it is used. Services is basically based on the man hours, not a physical product. And non-inventory product are something like SSL, like screws and ties, which will not track typically in the inventory level, right? And there is okay. So before we jump into scheduling, and we'll see, we'll go back to a slide and shortly, and we'll see what is scheduling, right? So the overall field service process, just to recap, we're running out of time. This work order creation we just saw, right? And it can be, as I said, it can be automatically generated based on certain events, or it can be automatically generated and periodical basis using agreements. And scheduling and dispatching is something which we use schedule board or scheduling assistant or RSO, which is fully automated, to schedule a resource. And then finally, delivery is something the field agents will be actually fulfilling the order. It's called delivering or servicing, who will be doing that. And then finally, you can review, after a field engineer or field technician does the job, you can have a review process where someone will review the work he's done. And then if there is any follow-up, they will create one more work order, and then mark it as a child work order, something like that. And they also do the inventory adjustment, right, accordingly. So you can actually extend this field service to ERP to procure and to integrate with your inventory closely. So with that, finally, and this is my last slide. Well, last one more slide. After this, I will see the system again. And the scheduling tools we have is, like we can say, schedule board as a manual. Like, well, dragging and drop in the schedule board is called manual. So manual scheduling is something like it's usually done when it's the less complex scenario, when less complex business, or during exceptional scenarios, right? Mostly from enterprise level implementations, we'll have RSO, or we use mostly scheduling assistant. And where scheduling assistant is something called a semi-automated, where systems adjust the resources, best possible resources, based on the resources configuration and the work order requirement configuration, the one we just saw, right? We saw the skill sets, preferred resources, preferred organization units, and territories. So all this based on that, and the resources will also have the similar configuration, where resources will have skill set, work hours, preferences, ratings. So based on that, the system suggests the best resources to fulfill that order, which is like a semi-automated, where user will go and click the system suggested option. And RSO is completely automated, where it can be scheduled like in like overnight scheduling, or like periodical scheduling, where it based on the scopes and the configurations constraints, it basically scopes and goals basically define it picks the right resource requirement assigned to the resources. So this can be combined. Actually, all this will be used together, in fact, in enterprise level implementations. So why, you can ask, if we are automating everything completely, why would need to have a manual drag and drop, which will not be realistic, right? The thing is, in many exception scenarios, where let's say suddenly like 3 hours before or 2 hours before on the same day, the field technician has to drop the work due to some emergency, something, he immediately calls the scheduler or the dispatcher and say, hey, sorry, I cannot make it, can you please assign to someone else, right? In that case, scheduler will use the schedule board extensively to drag and drop manually, and then do that. This is one of the classic example, but usually it's different tools will be used in different purpose for the implementation. And these are common terminologies. We have just seen that schedule board and scheduling assistant, RSO, and service task, which is to-do list, and bookings. As I said, now if you remember, bookings is something which will be created when we do the bookings. And visa resource requirement. Let's quickly move on to the demo. So this demo too is going to be on scheduling. So if I go back to the system, so you can see that this field job, sorry, this work order is unscheduled, and once we schedule, it will become scheduled. Status will be scheduled. So if you see the schedule board, so you can see one of this is one of the work order which is assigned to this particular technician already. As you can see, this technician is myself, and then I have the start time and end time as such. So if I wanted to assign one more, I mean the new one, we can just drag and drop like this. As you can see, the red color text there called time from promise and time to promise. Why it's showing that? If you remember, the resource requirement, we just said that. So it's actually indicating the scheduler that, hey, this is what the time we promised. You still want to do it to some other time. System is not going to stop. He can do, right? He can drag and drop in any time, but system will highlight that this is not we promised for. But where actually system restricted with respect this time, which is promised time, is in the when it done via RSO, where system automatically does it, right? At that time, it strictly follows this time from promised if you configure it accordingly. And then there is something called lock option in RSO, and that will make sure that this work order is scheduled within that time, so that some of the technician is going to be at the customer place in that specific time, right? So this is manual drag and drop. And there's also something called, if I go back to the work order and I'll see what is scheduling assistant now. I just showed you what is schedule board. Just to take 30 seconds of time to explain the schedule board. You see here, this is the resources we can see, and like different resources and their their work hours and how much of the utilizations as such. And if you wanna, you can see here, if I check resource card, it will basically take me to the actual resources, right? So resources is a pre-configuration to be done for the scheduling, but let me not take much time there. And you can see the resources can be user or resources can be individual user or even equipment. Let's say you have a maintenance company where you, let's say the people who go into the location, they need a drilling machine to do some work. So you can trace that drilling machine availability as well. If you can add that machine as one of the resources, and if you see, like equipment, so you can trace that availability of the drilling machine as well, right? If both people needs a machine, it needs to be available for both the people. And you can add a contact and account as well. They cannot use mobile app, but you can add it for internal purpose. And then you can schedule it to a crew, where if you have a group of resources to perform a certain activity, you can assign it to a crew. And again, one thing to note is crew is not currently supported by RSO, and it's not supported from the API as well. So only within the scheduling assistant and schedule board, crew is supported. And then you can schedule a facility as well. In our healthcare example that we just saw now, we can schedule a facility like operation theater or consultation rooms as well. And you can also resource book to a pool. So pool is kind of a group of resource where you can, if you do not know the exact resource who is going to do the work, you can assign it to a pool, and it's kind of a soft booking. And then someone from the pool will be later allocated for that work, right? And if I go back quickly, and then if you see, like, you can set the hourly rate, you can set the time of approval. What is the time of approval? If the resource wants to apply leave, you can mark whether that leave request needs approval or not. If it's not approval, automatically the leave will be approved automatically, right? There are many settings like this, but I don't want to go into details of that. And you can also have work hours, right? If I say see the work hours, oops, I don't know why. Let me check that. Yeah, let's not waste time on that. But now you can see that once you configure the resource like that based on the hours and the utilization, you can see here. And if you see the filters, and let's say if you want to say that you want to show only the resources belong to certain territory, certain region, you can just add it and filter it, and you'll see only resources from that region. And similarly, if you want to filter them based on the skill sets and the ratings, right, you can just say whoever has the, in our case, we are talking about armband servicing, right? So we need only people who can deal with armbands. Only these three folks can do that, something like that. And apart from that, you can also see the different colors, which will be shown based on the current status of the booking. So if I go and remove the filter, let me just keep it to myself for now. And you can have hourly view, weekly view, and then like monthly view. And this is the new schedule board, and which is going to be, yeah, which is launched like last year. And then you can switch back to old schedule board as well. I like the new schedule board personally. So if I go, this is one way of, I mean, this is manual drag and drop in schedule board. And if you want to use scheduling assistant, you can, this is one of the way doing that. You can just click the book, which will launch a scheduling assistant, and you'll see based on the resource requirement that we put in here, right, how the system is going to suggest the resources. Well, you can see that automatically the skill set has been taken from the resource requirement, that armband servicing, and the date has been taken automatically, the promise date and end date. I know, unfortunately, we do not have resources within this radius and time. Let me just switch to location agnostic, see if someone is there. Yeah.
Hi,
So,
Jeevan. Sorry to interrupt.
yeah.
So we are running out of time. So we
Okay.
have our next speaker waiting in the lobby. So just to
Sure.
inform
Okay.
you. Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks.
sure. Thanks. That's all. This is the last one then.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so if I just assign this to someone, like, I can just say book and exit, and it will just automatically book for that specific person, right? So it's the last one, and with that is scheduling, and then finally field service mobile app. So there are two apps: field service mobile app and field service mobile app Resco app. This is the older version of the app. This is the new version of the app. And if you're still using the older version of the app, please be cautious that the support will be end by next year, June 30. So make sure you start the migration to field service mobile app, which is pretty easy, and it's aligns with what it's something similar to the model-driven app customization. So now, if I just show my app, which is the last part of the demo, you can see if I'm a technician, I can just open the app, and then this app will show me the bookings that is allocated to me, and I can just go and right. If it doesn't, there's some issue with the connection. So it always happens for some reason. Let's stop it if it doesn't connect. Yeah, okay, cool. Good work. So if you see that if I am a technician, I will see like the allocated bookings to my plate, and I just mark this as a complete. And you can see I can just see the customer information and the service and the service task, and I can get the notes and something like that. And this is what the technician will use when he starts traveling. He mark it as a traveling, and when he starts, this is already done completed job, so it's showing some error. But if it's an unscheduled one, you can mark it as traveling, and then based on this status, the status in the field work order will be automatically changed, right? Something like that. So with that, and considering our time constraints, so yes, we're done. And just these are some of the resources that you can check it out to start your field service journey and to go through more about the field service. If any question, please let know. And yeah, again,